welcome to another episode of Tuesday Talk with Toomey. This is a very different format. I'm going to actually have a special guest here today, and that's you. So you, Chris Endres with Atlantic Biomedical, as CEO and president. Chris, I'm really excited to have you here and talk about something different, right? I want to hear about your world and things that are happening and what it's like out there, someone who doesn't have a GPO contract and navigating that world. So before we dive into that, if you don't mind, just kind of introduce your company, what you guys do, what your services are, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Hey, Dan, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's Atlantic Biomedical was founded by my father in the early 80s. We changed the name in 99. I joined with him, and it was he and I in 99, and we've grown the business to, for the last 26 years, to be a service provider for medical devices and facilities for locations that treat patients, typically outside of the hospital. 99% of our work is outside of the hospital. So ambulatory surgery centers, vet clinics, nursing homes, doctor's offices. And we provide what you would expect in the hospital system with your biomed and your facilities department, but outside the hospital. So our services keep the equipment up and running, keep it inspected, and making sure that you're meeting the requirements by your accrediting agencies. There's various different accrediting agencies based off of the type of practice that you are. And what we do is keep your equipment in compliance with those accrediting agencies. Once you're approved by the accrediting agencies, you meet the guidelines by CMS, and you're able to accept insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, and then all the other insurances follow. So it's a very small part of being in compliance is the medical devices and the environment of care. So the environment of care is the spaces where the practice is, the doctors are performing their practice, whether it's a surgery center, in an operating room, or a procedure room, or a doctor's office. So the environment of care includes the recovery area, the pre-op, any place where a patient is being treated from the moment they walk in the door through the surgery till the time they're discharged. Our services start with equipment sales, and we offer new or refurbished options. If a manufacturer is providing equipment or a third-party refurbisher, we also provide warranty support for the manufacturer. We provide warranty support for the third party. And once the warranty expires, we continue with the after-warranty service care, preventive maintenance, changing parts on a cadence that's required by the manufacturer and FDA guidelines. And we do repairs, maintenance, and inspections ongoing through the life of the practice. And when you're done with your practice and you're retiring or you're closing, we help with the liquidation and can move the equipment out to other locations as well.
So you really kind of do from birth of a facility to the
we can
life, if you would.
We can turn dirt into a surgery center, and then when you're done with it, we can put it back to dirt if that's what you need to.
And one thing that stands out to me, especially on your website, and you talk about in very, very quickly in your descriptions, is patient first. Can you talk about a little bit around the culture of the company around the patient-centered thought process, and then how you translate that to your customer?
I tell our people that our customers are not doctors, our customers are not nurses, our customers are not CEOs or directors, our customers are the patients. You're never going to meet them, you're never going to know them, but you just got to know that when you touch that equipment last, the next person that's going to be touching that equipment is a patient. And that patient's going to be in their most vulnerable state, and the doctors and nurses need to be confident that they can rely on that device to bring them back to their loved ones. Again, the healthcare technology management of that equipment and making sure that the doctors and nurses don't have to worry about it and they know they can do what they want to do.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, we talk about what a true industry partner is, right? And as someone that's always first and foremost patient-centric, right? That's what you're focused on. So, in a world of healthcare, you've got your acute, which is usually more going to be your hospital-based facilities, right? And your inpatient. And then you have your outside, your non-acute, but it's your surgery centers, right? And would you agree? Are you seeing a lot of surgery centers taking on more surgeries now as well? Like, are they getting busier with more outpatient procedures and things moving that way?
Sure. We struggle to find time to get in there to do our work. Our inspections take time to go in, making sure the equipment's working properly, electrically safe. Doing full preventive maintenance on a sterilizer takes about 6 to 8 hours. So having a sterilizer down in a surgery center for a whole day is proven to be a challenge. These centers are pretty packed with cases all day long, every day. And the doctors are pulling their cases from the hospital into the centers because there's no room in the hospitals either for the surgeries. So it's a fine balance of maintaining the equipment properly but still getting all the caseload done.
Yeah, and most importantly, right, is making sure the cases continue on, right? Is keeping the equipment moving, and it's serviceable, but at the same time that they're not having any downtime. Right?
Absolutely. Outside the hospital, these centers are very lean. They don't have a room full of equipment as backups. So they don't have a pump room or a handful of defibrillators on the sidelines. They have one defibrillator, one pump, one surgical table, one anesthesia machine. And when that equipment is down, they are out of business. And we treat all repairs as an emergency, knowing that. And we have a fleet of loaner equipment. So if the anesthesia machine's down, or a table, or a monitor that monitors CO2 and anesthetic agent, we have that to bring to get them up and running while we take care of theirs.
When you think at it from surgery centers, are you seeing, in this time period, are you seeing acquisitions of surgery centers? Are you seeing consolidations of surgery centers? Are they being more tied to the hospital? Are there a lot of independents or the independent groups? Like, what are you seeing in the landscape there in surgery centers?
Sure. It's been quite a difference, say, pre-COVID, post-COVID. Pre-COVID, we're truly a mom and pop. We did everything on a handshake. Customers called us because they wanted to use us, not because they were contractually obligated to. We showed up, we did work, and we got them up and running, and it was thank you and moving on. Post-COVID, there's been a bit of a corporate roll-up in our industry, and the new New York money, right, is just buying up all the surgery centers, and they're turning them from medical practices into revenue-generating practices, basically. And it's a whole different world, and it's gone from being able to trust and know that the loyalty I built with the administrator or the contact is they're going to call the next day, to if we're not the lowest price on a piece of paper, we're losing that bid, even though we've been maintaining this account for 20 plus years. It's been pretty frustrating watching it happen. It's a different world that we're in now.
Surgery centers, hospitals, majority of them are not, making a ton of money, right? They're barely making, profit, or they're running in the red. So cost is always going to be at the forefront of things that are most important, right? When they're looking at bids, okay, let's start with cost. But that's where, like, building the partnership and building that trust helps get around to find the value. And how do you get there, right? And I hear you. Like, it's sometimes you got to be able to find that first foot in the door to get to the corporate side, to start having those conversations, where for the longest time it was done right at your fingertips, at the door, at the desk, right at the front, the front reception area sometimes. So let's talk about those contracts, right? Now you kind of look at it from, I used to call at the door, used to have handshake deals. Then it came more, I need a little more contractual obligation to it. Now I'm getting asked, a lot more questions, but I'm not getting to the next level. Like, have you ever had an opportunity to talk with, what does the corporate world look like for you? Like, if you said, all right, how do I look at it from this changing world? And now I've got, a surgery center as part of a larger group. And then is that larger group part of a GPO? And have you been able to navigate with that world, in the sense that, like, how do you fit in? How does your company fit into a larger contract, like with a GPO or an IDN?
We've really struggled with that escalation into that world. Mm-hmm. You brought to attention a couple GPOs I didn't even know about. So for me, I know what it is. I've heard of it, and for us, it's never been on the forefront. There's a GSA schedule with the government, and there's ISO certification. We don't have that. And then the GPOs, we've never gotten into that. We hit some roadblocks every now and then. We don't have salespeople, which is a big, which is surprisingly a roadblock we've hit. And we don't have salespeople on purpose. We do provide sales. We treat sales as a service, but we don't have sales reps. So they're looking for someone to go in. And I'm thinking, like, why do you want to get sold? Like, we just want to come here and work. So that's been one of the stumbling blocks. Another one is we're not nationwide. We cover Philly to Richmond, and we're growing. We do have some nationwide accounts. We do work in California and Dallas and Chicago and Miami and all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
We install medical devices for manufacturers nationwide. We have service coverages for different national practices that trust us and understand the value. But if I go to a GPO and I'm not a nationwide company, or if I go and try to get on one of these bigger contracts, and they see that we're just Philly to Richmond, we lose there too. So,
I think it's okay, and I think that's. I would guarantee that there's many companies out there that are in a similar boat as you, trying to figure out, okay, where do I break through as a small guy, right? And I think that's where understanding each of the GPOs. There's the three big ones, and there's also more regional and smaller local GPOs that maybe fit in your wheelhouse as well, right? And exploring those types of contracts might be more suited for a company's more regional. But it, so it doesn't have to be your national. I think it has to be where is your sweet spot, and then focus on which GPO might be physically stronger in your area. Because yes, all three or four of them, however you want to look at it, have the kind of spread throughout the country, but each one of them have a more dense populated area where they're stronger too. So that's one advice I would give is let's look at what accounts are in your area and which ones are stronger, because if you have more of one than the other, then maybe you focus there first, because that could be, hey, I can cover 30-40% of your members here versus maybe only 10% of a different one, right? So that's one strategy I would say we could look at, and how to help with a regional focus versus a national focus.
And we were pre-COVID, we were growing organically through our partner relationships. So we did have an office in Phoenix, we had an office in Denver, New England. We were getting ready to launch in Minnesota and Miami and Newark, New Jersey. But of course, when COVID happened, we kind of paused and realized that world was a different place. So a lot of those partnerships that were, again, on handshakes kind of went away. So we decided to scale that back, come back to the Philly to Richmond area, and now we're growing kind of more of like a growth north into Philly, Newark, New Jersey, Boston, New York, and we can support New York with a 3-hour, 4-hour car ride with an expert versus jumping on a plane to get to Phoenix was a bit of a challenge and became kind of cost prohibitive after COVID. So
I think also too, something else you mentioned is around like sales folks. Like there's a lot of it's not uncommon to not have a robust sales force, right? Not every company can afford to pay 50, 60, 70 reps to be out there running around, right? But at the same time, you do have field services. You do have people out in the field. You have your techs, you have yourself, you have people that are out for installs, and repairs. To me, that's all the support that they're looking for as well. It doesn't need you to have someone selling. It means you need to have someone that's able to get out there and help and support. And that can even be inside sales, right? So think about it from that angle, is your coverage isn't always going to be in the door. It could be a service that is licensed from another company that could help on the West Coast, or it could be, hey, this could easily be done through Zoom or through a video call, and we can walk you through how to troubleshoot, right? So you can expand yourself in that, in that bid process or in those conversations is think a little bit bigger. Like your reach is actually there. You just don't have maybe the extra 30 people running, through the door, but you have those services and you have the ability to overcome some of those.
We do. When over the past 16 years, we've built about 170 surgery centers nationwide, and part of the value added that Atlantic Biomedical brought to the table was we would find you a local service provider to provide the same type of services that we offered. And it was a different concept coming from me networking and talking with the owners, the presidents, the VPs of these companies from a top-down approach versus a nurse admin opening the phone book and calling the sales guy. And the sales guy is going to sell you the world, right? They're going to come in and tell you everything you want to hear and get your business. And are they truly able to support what you need? The way we do business is a little different than our competitors, and knowing that, being able to talk to the top of the organization, making sure that they truly are who they say they are, and not being sold by a sales guy. So I do have a network nationwide of like-minded professionals providing the services the way we provide them. And it's just maybe putting that together in a way that like a commitment amongst each others to then maybe go after some of these global or nationwide accounts. Yeah, that'd be.
Yeah, but you can use that network to advantage is my point, right? If you're trying to break through that, that ceiling of like, how do I get to the corporate level? You have it there, right? It's just a matter of how you structure it, how you present it, and how you have used those resources as part of we can take care of. Because one of the biggest things they're going to ask, right, is okay, I got a price point that I can live with. Yes, the technology is acceptable clinically, whether it's an IT product or an actual surgical product, right? And then it's like, okay, do we have your support? Are you going to be someone that can help us and be a partner, or are you going to just be another contract with some widgets that come through and then, sorry, I can't take care of you? And they don't. That's their concern. So that's why the flashy sales force becomes, maybe a notch up. But when you have the services, you can structure it so that you can play just as equally as they can too. So
Sure.
You're not counted out for sure.
We just won a really great opportunity this year. We're building 15 locations, most of them in the Baltimore, Washington area. We've got one in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, 2 in Dallas, Texas, and 1 in South Carolina. So the concern that I had to overcome with the conversation to win the business was, how are you going to support Dallas? How are you going to support the Carolinas? New Jersey, we can support that from Baltimore. So networked with the manufacturers, talked through them. They have support in that area, so that'll cover the first year. And then as these practices grow, we do actually have 4 locations now in Dallas. So do we put a tech in Dallas, knowing that we're growing there, and we need to support this new location, and also we have other locations that we're flying in for from time to time. So it's been an organic growth process. Wasn't our plan. Of course, our plan is to grow north from here, but if there's all this business in Dallas and we need to support Dallas, we will be there to support the customer, or find a local company, like I said, or the manufacturer to come in and make sure the equipment's working.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good approach as you're organically growing. A plan is only as good as it's been written for, right? But things change, and if you're adaptable and can accommodate it, right, then that's how you're going to continue to grow and support, and that gives you more leverage and conversation as as you go back to the corporate conversations. Or even the GPO level of like, hey, I think this is why we can support. You can use, these are great examples of, look, we've adapted, we've hired, we put people in place. We'll do, and you said this in the very beginning, right? We'll do what's right by the customer, and those are examples of how you already have, and they listen to that, right? So those are good things to tie together to help build that package of like who you are as a company. It's more than just the products that go through the door.
That's actually how we got here. We provided a service initially, inspections of medical devices, and then the nurse would call and say, the admin would call and say, hey, can you do this? Yeah, sure. Can you do that? Yeah. Oh, they just started enforcing this rule. Okay, and we would put together a program to support that regulation. Fire doors, boiler inspections, room air exchange testing. There's all these ancillary services that they pick and choose from, and then they start enforcing, and then they call me and they say, hey, can you do this? And we don't today, but we can. So once we get 2 or 3 or 5 locations saying, hey, we need room air exchange testing done, we go out, we buy a bolometer. It's like $4,000 test device. We create a program. We create all the algorithms and all the formulas, and we go out and we do the testing, and then we report the results. And if you're passing, then you pass, and if not, we contact an HVAC company, bring them in with us, and we work together to make sure that you get to passing. So the ultimate goal is not only to keep you in compliance, but if you're not, is to get you back to compliance as well.
So all the things you just mentioned are value adds, right? These are things that you bring forth as a company that stand out from someone else. But all your certifications and all your training and the in-depth training, like those are things are brag lists, right? You should have readily available that can stand out for how you provide the services and also ensure the safety of the patient, right? Going back to that patient is that these are all these things are tied to the accreditation societies that are out there that you're part of. You're following those guidelines, and then you're instilling that type of training at your business. And then when you go into a surgery center or a hospital or any other facility, right, they're already well trained and well versed. And ultimately, all that's being done to protect the patient. All right, so let's shift gears. We talked about surgery centers, right? That was the first half of your business. And the other part being is like kind of everything else, right? So in the non-acute world, purchase services, everything of the sort. But if it's long-term facilities, nursing homes, you said veterinarian, even schools and other things. So are you aware that all of those facilities could be part of a GPO contract as well?
I'm not.
Yeah, so think about that as kind of like when you're starting to break through into that contracting world, is like what all the services can you support, right? You actually are broadening horizons. You're already touching so many more customers of those corporate, conversations you want to have. There's a good questions to ask. Is like, well, what is your population in these areas, right? How many long-term care facilities are you managing as well, or what about veterinary hospitals and so on? Our services go out that far, right? And you're breaking into a whole nother layer of conversation that a lot of other providers or industry partners can't do. They're very much one-track minded of a surgery center or a hospital only. But when you're branching out to all those other facilities, that might give you another upper hand too. Of we're not just focused on this one silo of operations. We're doing all these other things too. Whether it's water, right, and what all the different things that sterile water maybe need in different places, or steam, right. So think of your conversations. You're broadening your horizon in those conversations too. And so if you're looking at, do I want to even go as far as going into a GPO or not? What you also could get is, if you are awarded a GPO contract, you get support from them. You get field support. You get contracting support. You might get some pricing parity support. But you could broaden out yourself to say, hey, don't forget that all these other things very much could be in a corporate account world too. So just kind of giving you a little bit more insights of like your world touches so many things that the corporate worlds, the GPOs, the large IDNs, the local GPOs, they're thinking about every day too. It's asking those questions to get in front of the right people who are caring about that, because then you can bring more people to the room at once, right? And you're more impactful in your pitch and your services. And I think you have a lot more to offer at that moment, right, than just focusing on trying to build your primary, which is where your revenue is coming from and what your focus is. But
sure,
those are things you could expand upon.
We're a biomed company first and foremost. We repair medical devices, but like you said, it really does cross over into many different, even home healthcare stuff, and power chairs and stair lifts. We've got a guy that used to work on those. Mm-hmm. So and we're willing to do that. We're a vendor neutral company. We're customer neutral. Whoever needs the support, we're willing to do the work. Whoever wants to pay us to do the work, we're willing to do the work. Talking about water quality, it's a big new program that we're starting on ST108, making sure that the water quality meets the standard that has gone from a recommendation to a requirement. And to get there, water and water quality touches so much more than just a medical practice. We're in breweries, we're in steam baths and gyms and country clubs. We're in just various different places that you wouldn't even think of a medical company being into. But when you're putting a electric boiler under a sterilizer to create steam for sterilization, they're selling that boiler to other types of industries as well, food manufacturing, lab work. So there's a lot of places where this stuff goes outside of the medical practice, outside of the veterinary practice. We do provide services for hospitals. We do support hospitals. We do help with big projects at hospitals. But again, ambulatory surgery centers outside of the hospital are our primary focus. And then wherever else the equipment is, veterinary practice, doctor's office, nursing home, plastic surgery, primary care physician, whatever type of practice it is that has this medical device, we're able to help.
Good. Well, I think you touched on a lot of common concerns and hurdles in the market today. I think there is always a strategy, right, of how to work around the hurdles that you're hitting getting into the GPO corporate world that'll help with some of these acquisitions of the larger groups and surgery centers too. And I appreciate you sharing your story and a little bit about your company. And so thank you for being here today. And you're the very first ever someone live with Tuesday Talks with Toomey. So thanks, Chris.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
all right.
Thanks.
Yep.